Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to today's session in the Did You Know training series from Google. Today's session is You Can Do That with Docs, Slides, and Sheets, in which we're going to be exploring helpful tips and tricks for getting the most out of Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets. Before we get started, though, a little bit of housekeeping. A couple of quick things I want to mention. You'll notice we do have some short URLs up in the top right-hand corner of the slides. The slides themselves can be found at goo.goal, goo.gle slash April 12th. April 12th for today's date, and then the site where all of the Did You Know resources and sessions can be found is goo.gle slash Did You Know. So at any point throughout this session, if you'd like to pull up the slides to follow along, you can use that first link for that. And of course, the entire site where all of the training sessions are going to be found. That link is there as well. While you guys are taking a moment to pull those things up, if you'd like, I'll do a quick introduction. So, howdy, everybody. My name is Eric Kurtz. I am an educator in Northeast Ohio. This is my 30th year in education. Started off as a middle school math teacher, taught middle school math for 7 years, and then moved into a role as a tech coach or a tech integration specialist. And I've been doing that for the last 23 years. That is my day job. I work for the Stark County Educational Service Center for SPARC, the Stark Portage Area Computer Consortium, where I serve about 35 school districts up in Northeast Ohio with technology integration. And then on the side, I'm also a Google certified trainer, innovator, and educator, and I run the website Control Alt Achieve, where I share all of my googly resources. Today, though, I am absolutely thrilled to be presenting this session on behalf of Google and Kiker Learning. So happy to have a chance to be presenting this session for you guys. And this is the site I had mentioned earlier. You can get to this again at goo.gle slash Did You Know. And this is the series of sessions we're doing. There'll be 8 of these. This is the first in this series. And so I would encourage you to check out the site and see the other sessions coming up and join us for those. They're all going to be recorded. So if you do need to watch one again, or if you miss one and need to catch one that you missed as these get done, the resources will be added to the site. Wonderful. Awesome. Well, hey, let's go ahead and dive on into this session today because we've got a lot of stuff to look at, and we're going to try to keep this to half an hour throughout the session. If you have questions, would absolutely encourage you to share those. Probably the best way is going to be through the YouTube live chat. We'll be doing our best to monitor that and give you some answers to your questions if you do post some questions in there. If you do see a question that you have an answer for, please feel free to answer other people's questions as well. That'll help us all as we work through this session. So what we're going to be looking at in this session together are a couple of tips for docs, slides, and sheets. Now, there are so many that we could look at. I mean, we could do just a whole session just on docs or just on slides or just on sheets. So it was really tough for me to go through and try to pick out, okay, I'm going to try to choose 3 things to share for each of these. So not saying that each 3 of these are the best, but they're 3 that I was excited about. And I thought, okay, this will be a good place to start to kind of broaden our usage of docs, slides, and sheets. And so that's the plan. We're going to go through each of these. And then at the very end, I've got some additional resources for you to go deeper and further into docs, slides, and sheets. I'm going to let you know I'm going to be moving kind of quick in this session because I want to make sure I get through all of the content. So please, you guys stop us if there's a question, again, throw that in the chat if there's something that we need to revisit, circle back around, and give a little bit more details on. With that said, though, let's buckle up and jump on into this. So we're going to start off by talking about Google Docs and just a couple of neat things you can do to extend your use of Google Docs and tips and tricks. And so the 3 we're going to be talking about is setting your default font, video previews, and embedded drawings. Now, for this particular example, I am going to be using this document for the entire thing. I'm going to use it for all three of these different examples here. So what I've done is I'm pretending this is like a HyperDoc worksheet where my students are learning about landforms. I'm going to have them watch a video, and then I'm going to have them fill out a graphic organizer on a landform they've chosen. So that's the document that I'm going to be demonstrating on during this as we talk about these three different things. So let's start with the first thing I'd like to mention, which is setting your default font. So turns out that there's a lot of fonts in the Google tools. I think we're over 1,300 available web fonts now. If you go up to your font menu at the top, you'll see a bunch of fonts that you've already got selected. And you can always add more fonts by going to the more fonts option there and then browsing through the, like I said, 1,300 plus fonts that are available out there. Well, here's a question though. What if you find a font you really like and you like to use it a lot? And you're like, every time I start up a new document, I have to select my text, and then I have to go up to the font menu, and then I have to switch over. So for example, Lexend, this is a font I've been using a lot recently. Lexend is an awesome font that was designed specifically to help struggling readers, well, really all readers, but to help folks to be able to read the text easier. And so this is a font I've been using a lot. Well, what if I just wanted Lexend to be my font that I always use anytime I start up a Google document? Well, normally that's not the case. Normally, if you start up a Google document, you're probably going to have like Arial or something like that as your default font. Well, you know what? You're allowed to change that. And it's really easy to do. So basically what you do, it's a one-time procedure. Take a document and, type up, some sample text, and then set that text the way you want it. So like I could say, I'm going to make this Lexend light. If that's what I want, I could change the font size or whatever, make it just the way you want it. Once you're happy with how that text is, select the text so that it is highlighted. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go up to the drop-down menu above there where it says normal text. And so these are the settings for just the normal text of your document. With that text selected, hover above normal text, and then go to the little pop-out menu to the right and say, click on update normal text to match. You're saying, I want my normal text to be this format from here on out. So you click update normal text to match. Then we need to save that as our permanent default settings. So go back to that same drop down under normal text, go to the bottom where it says options, and you'll see it will say save as my default styles. As long as I do that, boom. Now, anytime I create a new document, so if I come over here and I create a new document, it's going to be in Lexend 12 to start with. Awesome. So as I start to type in my text, it's already in that format. So that's a great way to make sure that you save time and always have your documents formatted the way you want. Okay, what else can we do with Google Docs besides setting our default font that might be a useful thing? Well, how about video previews? So in this example, I'm wanting the students to watch a video about landforms. So I've already got the video. I've already copied it into memory. I've got a link for it here. It's a video on landforms from Crash Course Kids. Great YouTube channel. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to, paste in that link. So we'll just go ahead and paste the link in there for that video. Well, normally, you can't embed videos into a Google document. If I go up to the insert option, there's not a video option there to put a video into my document. So normally we give our students a link that they would then, click that link and go out to YouTube. And that's totally fine. But sometimes it'd be nice if they didn't have to go out to YouTube just because, well, there's a lot on YouTube that could be distracting. There's suggested videos and there's comments, and they might go down another trail. And so it would be wonderful if they could just watch the video right here in Docs. Now, there are a bunch of tricks and ways that you can do this. But the one that I want to show you today is something that's relatively new. And that is the preview option, the open preview option that's been added recently within the last year or so to Google Docs. And here's the way it works. So first of all, we want to put our link into the document. So there's my YouTube link. And you can do this one of two ways. You can either put it in as a regular link where it's got the full address, or when you put the link in, you can use Google suggestion to replace the link with something a little prettier. These are called chips, and you can either replace it with the chip right away, or after you put the link in, you can click on it and you can click on replace with chip, and it just makes for a prettier link. That's not the trick though. The trick is when you come here now and you click on this link, suddenly there's a little preview of the video below. We get a little animated GIF preview of the video, whether I'm clicking on the link or hovering above the chip. And then on that little animated GIF preview, there's a button that says Open Preview. And if I give a click on that, guess what it does? It opens it. Yay! Now I'm going to pause that so that we don't have that playing over me while I'm trying to talk. It opens it in an actual preview right inside of the document. And you can resize it if you want to make it a little bit smaller or bigger. And the point is, I can play the video while I'm doing the activity. So your students can be working on the project while they're watching the instructional video you want them to watch. When they're all done, they can just close out of that and they're good to go. But again, as long as you've got a link in there, you can then hover above that YouTube video and click on the open preview to pop that open. Now, it doesn't work for every single video out there. Like if it's a private video, things like that. There are some restrictions on that, but for most videos, for most public videos, that is going to be a great way to be able to do that. All right. And so last thing on Docs that I said I wanted to mention was embedding drawings. And so the last thing I want to do in this activity is after they've watched their video, they're going to pick a landform that they want to write about. And I want them to create a graphic organizer below where they write about their landform. Well, this can be done a lot of ways, but a really neat option for this is to use Google Drawings. And so you can actually put an interactive graphic organizer right inside of your Google document. So here's how that works. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by clicking the insert menu and I'm going to go to drawing. I'm going to say new. I want to make a new Google drawing right inside of my Google document. It's going to pop up a Google drawing window where I can use all of the tools to add shapes and lines and so forth. Well, today we're going to save a little bit of time. I've already got a Google drawing in another window here, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to copy this Frayer model that we've got here. And I'll just copy that and I'll come back over here and I will paste it. There we go. And I can kind of resize it a little bit so it fits well. But I could have also done this by scratch. I could have built, all these out, one by one. And so there we go. I'm going to hit save and close. And now inside of my Google document, and I'll tidy this up a little bit so it all fits on one page here. There we go. Now it's all fitting on one page. Now the student will be able to come here, and this isn't just a picture. This is actually an interactive Google drawing. They can double click on this, and when they do, it opens up, and they can go ahead and start filling this in. So, maybe they've decided that they're going to be writing their landform as a mesa. That's what they're going to be doing their writing on, and so now they could come in here and they could start adding in, their definition, and then they could put in their facts and characteristics. And of course, I'm just copying and pasting these to save a little bit of time. I've already got these elsewhere, but that's the nice idea here is I can put in examples and non-examples of these as well. And as simple as that, the student has now completed this graphic organizer right inside of their Google document. All right. Well, I hope that gave you guys a couple of neat ideas about how we can use Google Docs with some neat tips and tricks. I do see a few things popping up in the chat. There was a question about how I got that chip in there again. And the chip idea, that really is just something that is, it pops up automatically from Google as a suggestion anytime you add a hyperlink into a Google document. If that hyperlink is to like a video or a slideshow. So if I paste in a hyperlink into my document, I get this pop-up over here saying, "Hey, do you want to replace this with this happy little chip?" And I can click on it right there. If I don't, if I just leave it as a regular old link and I click on the link, I'll still get that suggestion where at the bottom it'll say, "Hey, would you like to replace the URL with a happy little chip?" And you can say, "Yes, I would." And if you click on that, that's when it makes it into that prettier chip. And so it'll do that not just for videos, it'll do it for links to other things like slideshows and so forth. And it'll give you a happier little chip there for you, which is nice. All right, very good. I did see Kathy asked, when embedding a drawing and sharing that document, does the drawing need to be shared in a specific way? So here's the idea. If you add the drawing the way I did by saying insert drawing new, and you create a brand new drawing, and in that drawing, you put in all your shapes and all that, that drawing is now a part of the document. So its sharing settings are the same as the sharing setting for the document, because I'm not embedding. If you say insert drawing from Drive and you're linking a drawing in, that's different. But if you say insert drawing new and you create it new, even copying and pasting it from an existing one, that is now a drawing that's part of this document. So its sharing settings follow the document. So if I went to Google Classroom and I pushed this out and said make a copy for each student, they would all have a drawing embedded. Now, obviously, I filled this one out already. I would keep it blank, but they would be able to, because they would get edit rights to their document that's being copied for them. They would also have edit rights to the embedded drawing inside of there. So thank you, Kathy, for that question. All right, let's keep on going. I told you we're going to be going quick here. I'm going to try my best to cover docs, slides, and sheets in our time. So, but thank you for the questions. I really appreciate you guys asking those. Next up, how about a little bit of slides tips and tricks? So I decided to pick 3 out of these. And again, there are so many. We could do a whole session just on fun things to do with slides, but these are the 3 I decided to go with: maximizing space, live captions, and publishing to the web. So those are the 3 I picked. So let's chat about each of those. So the first one, maximizing space. Let's say you have a Google slideshow like this one that I did a couple years back on short and long vowel sounds. So in this case, what we have is a slideshow where the students are learning about short and long vowel sounds. And the idea is they're supposed to drag and drop these images into the correct box to, categorize them by vowel sound. And I did also include audio in those. That's the insert audio option where you can add audio into your slideshow. So if I hover above this and I click, we'll hear the words rain. There's rain. And then here we should have hat. Let's see. If I click on it, maybe. Hello, wake up, buddy. Oh, there it is. Sorry about that. Hat. There it is. Okay. And so I've got this, I've got audio built into those through the insert audio feature in Google Slides. Well, that's cool and all, but here's where the challenge comes in. Let's say I push this out as an activity for my students, or let's say we're doing it together as a collaborative activity in class. Depending upon the device you're on, sometimes you don't have a lot of real estate to work with. Now, I'm on a big monitor right now. My screen's a really big screen, but that may not be the case. You could be on a Chromebook that has, an 11.6-inch screen or something like that. Or you might, be on a monitor that has a lower resolution. And what might end up happening is you end up not having a whole bunch of space left over for the actual activity. And you're trying to have as much real estate as possible for the students to do their drag and drop activity here, or whatever the activity might be. So we can maximize space in a Google slideshow. And here's a couple of ways we can do that. We're allowed to get rid of the speaker notes at the bottom. We're allowed to get rid of the film strip on the left, as we call it, and we're able to get rid of the menus at the top. We can get rid of all of that and have much more room to do our activity. Here's how it works. One way to do this is through the view menu. If you go to the view menu, you can simply uncheck show speaker notes and show film strip. And if you uncheck show speaker notes, that goes away. And if you uncheck show film strip, that goes away. As simple as that, we can get rid of those, which is really nice. Now, you can also do this manually. You can simply take your mouse, put it at the top of the speaker notes and drag it down. And for the film strip, you can take your mouse and put it on the little arrow at the bottom and move it over to the side. Now, to get rid of our menus at the top, we can either get rid of some of them by using this little hide menus button up here in the top right, which will get rid of the file menu and the edit menu and so forth. But if we really want to get rid of all the stuff up there, we can go back to view and we can choose full screen. When we do that, it gets rid of all of the menus and we can use escape to exit out of that anytime that we're ready. But at this point, we can now do our activity and we have the entire screen to work with. When we're all done, we can press escape. That'll bring us back to normal view. We can put our film strip back if we want. We can put our speaker notes back. So be aware, that's a great way to get a little bit more real estate when you're doing an activity in slides. Next up in slides, I wanted to mention captions. So live captions are built into Google Slides as a great way for students to be able to see what you're saying while you are speaking. So while I'm presenting a slideshow like I'm doing right now, if I go down to the bottom left-hand corner, there's a little three dots button down here. If I give a click on that, I get a lot of things I can do, like, full screen mode or turn on the laser pointer, open the speaker notes. Well, that's also where you can go for captions. If I choose captions preferences, and then I come here and I click on toggle captions, what's going to happen now is everything I say is automatically going to be subtitled or closed captioned, in this case, above the slideshow. Now it's up there because that's where I chose. You can always go back down to the three dots button, give a click on that, go to captions preferences, and you can adjust the text position from the top to the bottom, and you can also adjust the text size from small all the way up to extra large. And of course, you can click the toggle captions button again to turn it off. There's been a lot of research done to show that, especially when students are learning to read, being able to hear you say words and see the words at the same time makes a much better connection between the spoken word and the written word. Helps with learning to read. It also helps with comprehension. It can also help with students who are distracted in class. So many benefits to having that available. So that's a great tool while presenting to take advantage of. And then the last thing I was going to mention in Google Slides is the idea of publishing to the web. So let's say I want to let you have access to the slideshow, which we have, of course, as we mentioned before. At the top, there's a link, goo.gle/April 12th or April 12th, April 1-2. That'll get you to this. But how did we give you that link so that you could access this slideshow? Well, a lot of times when you think about, I'll just use my vowel sounds one here as an example, since I don't have this one published yet. A lot of times when we think about sharing a slideshow, our thought goes, well, shouldn't we go up and click on the share button? Isn't that the way to do it? Come up here, click on the share button, and then I can, share the slideshow from there. Yeah, that's fine. You certainly can do that. But the problem is, if I share the slideshow from the share button, when somebody goes to open it, they're going to get it in this mode where they've got the film strip on the side and the menus at the top and the speaker notes at the bottom. Even if they can't edit it, they're still going to see all this other stuff. Now, sometimes I don't want that. I just want them to be able to click the link and boom, the slideshow goes full screen. There's no menus, no film strip, just the slideshow. Well, that's done by doing what's called publish to the web. Now, the way we do that, really simple. We go to the file menu, and from the file menu, we go down about 2/3 of the way down and we choose publish to the web. When we click on that, it pops up a little window where it gives us some options. We can just click publish. That's totally fine, but we can also set things like, do we want a certain amount of time in between each of the slides? Do we want the slideshow to start automatically? Do we want it to loop at the end? Now, I probably wouldn't do that for most slideshows because I want to leave it up to the person viewing. I want them to move through at their own pace. When I would use these would be like if I was making stop motion animation, which is a whole other training session that we can talk about sometime as well, which is neat. But let's say I just want to give people quick access to the slideshow. I simply hit publish. It says, are you sure? I go, yep, I am. Click OK. And there you go. It gives me a link. And if I copy that link is going to open up the slideshow full screen presentation mode. Now, that wouldn't make so much sense with this one since this one's meant to be more interactive. But I did do that for this one, the one that we're looking at right now. I went to File, Publish to the Web. I clicked on Publish, and boom, there it is. So now anytime I want, I can copy that link. And anybody who takes that link and uses it they just get the slideshow ready to go. None of the other menus on there, just a nice slideshow, and boom, there we are. And that's what we did to give you guys that friendly link. All right, we are down to our last section, which is Google Sheets. I'm going to take another quick look to see if there's something I missed in the chat that I think we can address. Julia said if we get rid of the film strip, will it stay hidden for students when we share the slides? Is there a way to turn them off by default? So Julie, the short answer that I'm aware of is no, that is a per user setting, and it is, up to the user for each slideshow to go in and make those changes. Thankfully, it's really quick. It's not something that takes a whole bunch of hoops to jump through to do that. If somebody knows a way to modify the URL so that it passes a variable that says hide the film strip, that would be awesome. I'm not aware of that. So at the moment, I am not aware of that option other than doing it manually. But thank you for asking that. All right, guys, Google Sheets. We're going to wrap up with Google Sheets, and then I've got a few more resources to share with you at the end. All right, so what I'd like to do with Google Sheets is, again, just picking out 3 things that I think would be good to be aware of. Splitting text to columns, conditional formatting, and pivot tables. We may go just a couple minutes over, but just heads up, I'm going to do my best to get through these as quickly as I can with you. So what I've got here is some sample data, not real data, no real students' names here. This is all just made up data, but I'm going to use this for the first 2, which is splitting text to columns and conditional formatting. So sometimes when you get a spreadsheet, you may have text that isn't split and you'd like it to be split. For example, here we have a name column where the first and last names are together. So if I wanted to sort this, I could sort it, but it's only by first name. I can't sort by last name, and that's not always beneficial. Well, there's a lot of ways to split text into columns, but thankfully Google Sheets has a built-in feature for us to do this. So here's the way it works. First thing I need to do is I need to make a little bit of room. I need to add a blank column to hold the last name. So I'm just simply going to right-click on column A, and I'm going to say insert a column to the right. And boom, it's going to give me a blank column. Need to have a little space for it to go into. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on column A again, so it's selected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my data menu. From the data menu in Sheets, look at what's at the bottom there. Split text to columns. How nifty. There's something built right in that will let us very easily split text into columns. So I'm going to click on that. And when I do, it's going to ask me a question. Down here at the bottom, it's asking, what is the separator? What is the character that is separating the words? Well, in this case, it's a space. So I'm going to choose space. But it might not be. It could be a comma. It could be, a semicolon, or it could be something custom. Maybe it's comma followed by a space. Maybe it's like last name, comma, space, first name. You could put in a custom separator. For me, though, it's just a space. So once I click on space, watch what happens. Boom, there we go. It's been split. Now, of course, I'm going to want to come up here and rename these like last name and then, change this one to first name since they now mean something different. But simple as that, I now have those split and I could sort by my last name by the last names if I would like. So that's a nice tip. Next up, conditional formatting. Now, conditional formatting allows us to color code or format. Doesn't have to be color. It can be bold, italics, things like that. But normally I think of it as color coding. We can color code some of our data based upon conditions. So here's what I mean. Let's say these are grades for my students and I'm wanting to see who's struggling, who's at risk. So maybe I'd like to have highlighted in red any grade that falls below a certain threshold. Let's say the threshold is 75. Anybody who scored 75 or less, I'd like that to just pop and get my attention. Well, I could go through one by one, finding each of these and using the paint can button, and filling them in, but that's going to take a lot of time. So instead, what I can do is use conditional formatting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the columns that I want to apply this to, and then I'm going to go to my format menu, and from there, I'm going to go down to conditional formatting. When I click on that, it opens up a panel where I just need to do a couple of quick things. I need to give it a rule, and then I need to tell it what to do based on that rule. So what is the rule? Well, at the moment, it's just saying the cell is not empty. Well, that applies to everything. So what I want to do is give it a more specific rule. Is it a date that's before or after something? Is it a value that is greater than or less than or equal to? Is it text that contains certain, characters? Well, in my case, it's a value, and I want to go with any time the grade is less than or equal to something. So I'm going to click on that. And for the value, let's say it's 75. Let's say that's the cutoff. So I gave it a rule. Anytime the cell is less than or equal to 75, I want it to be colored. And then I can choose what kind of color scheme I want to go with. And there's lots of pre-made ones, or I can customize them. I'll just go with red since that's going to catch my attention. I'll click done. And that's it. Now, the beauty of this is live. If later I found out the 75 was actually a 76, as soon as I press enter, it's no longer red. But if I found out that, another one of these like this, 79 was actually a 74, it will turn red. So that is a live conditional formatting. Okay, last thing. Pivot tables. Now I know you say, Eric, you can't talk about pivot tables in a couple of minutes. That's a pretty big topic. But no, I think we can. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do a real quick explanation of what a pivot table is and how it can be your best friend. So let's say I've got this Google form where the students are doing a daily check-in. They put their name and then they rate how well they understand the content for that day. And now I've got this spreadsheet collecting all of these. So day after day after day after day, I'm getting the same students and I'm getting their ratings. And I'd like to get a clear summarization of that. Well, there's no easy way to do that, just like averages and stuff. I need something a little bit fancier. I need a pivot table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my columns that I want to create a pivot table out of. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my insert menu. And nope, I'm not. I'm in the wrong column there. Sorry about that. Got to find my pivot table there. No, I was right. Sorry about that. I'm going to go to my insert menu and go down to pivot table. Now, when I do that, what it does is it creates a new tab where I can now fill in rows, columns, values, and filters. So I'm going to do this kind of quick, but here's the idea. The rows are the things I'm wanting to summarize by. Well, I want to summarize by the names of the students. So I choose, let's add in the names. So each of the students shows up. The columns are the different things I want to summarize cross horizontally, which is their ratings for how well they understood the content, which is going to be either a 1, 2, 3, or 4. Then inside of there, that's the values that I wanted to add up. Well, that's also going to be their ratings. I'm going to choose their ratings. Now, by default, it decides it wants to add up those values. That's not really what I want. I want it to count how many times each of those different values was mentioned. So I'm going to go with count instead of sum. And then for the filter, all I'm going to do is say, you know what? I don't need any of these where it's blank. So, I could come in here and I could say, let's leave out, any of these where there are blanks. And that should clean it up pretty well there. If I wanted to, I could use my formatting to center these, and I could use my borders to make it a little cleaner to see. But as quickly as that, what I've got now is I've got for each of my students how many times they answered 1, 2, 3, or 4 for their understanding, for their ratings. And I can see that right away, and it's live. As new ones come in, this automatically updates. So a pivot table is a wonderful tool to summarize large amounts of data by categories and subcategories. So great stuff. All right. Now, I promised we'd have a little bit more resources at the end. So I do want to let you know that at the end of the slideshow, on the resources, after the resources slide, I've got 4 documents that I've linked in here that can let you go deeper into docs, slides, and sheets. The first one is a document with lots of practical ideas on how to use Google Documents for English language arts activities, pages and pages and pages of ready to go activities there. Then the next one is the same thing for Google Slides. Again, loads of pages on creative ways that Google Slides can be used with your students. Then another one that's the same thing for spreadsheets, creative activities on spreadsheets for your students. And the last one is about analyzing data with spreadsheets. That gets more into some of the stuff we were just talking about there as well. So as we start to wrap up, a couple of quick things. I do want to remind you that this session is recorded. All of the recordings for this session and the other ones will all show up on the Did You Know website. If you still need that link again, that was goo.gle/did you know. That will get you to that page where you will see the upcoming sessions and can sign up for those. And also, this will get updated with a link to the video as well as the slideshow here. I want to thank you guys so very much for taking time out of your day to be with me. I hope you picked up a couple of neat ideas there. I'm going to look over again to see if there's any more questions. I don't see anything else popping in at the moment, so I think we're good. So, hey, on behalf of Google, on behalf of Kiker Learning, and on behalf of myself, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be a part of this session. Hope you picked up some great things. I'm excited to see what this does for you and your students. Look forward to learning with you some more in the upcoming sessions. Thank you guys so very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.